What's up, guys? Welcome back to Deeper Dive CFB. We're going to give some Week 6 college pick'em in 1 sec, but one thing I did want to mention before we started, I do have my own ESPN college pick'em group, and if you would like to join, it'll be in the description below. There'll be a link there for y'all to join, so hope y'all enjoy the video. Thank you. So with my 1 point game, I'm going to go with Air Force on the road beating Navy. Obviously two military schools going at it. It should be a really good game, and I think either way it's going to be a really close game. Two teams that like to keep it on the ground, very old school. But I'm gonna go with Air Force in this one. I think just for the sole reason that they've shown more this year. Going on the road, beating Colorado at 30-23. Next week they went to Boise State and kept that a really close game. And we've seen Boise State go on the road and beat Florida State. And we've seen Boise State just traditionally be a really good program. So I think to keep that one close definitely gives them some bonus points there. And then beating San Jose State pretty handily, who San Jose State went on the road and beat Arkansas. So I think definitely a good resume so far for Air Force. Navy, on the other hand, beat two teams that they should pretty easily. And then I thought they kept it close against Memphis, but still, I think in this game, there's no reason not to pick Air Force here. I think the nation would disagree, but you just have to take a little more analyzed look at things, and I think if you do that, you would definitely pick Air Force. So I'm gonna go with them just for the 1 point game because rivalry game, two military schools going at it. You never know what Navy could pull out of their hat, but I am gonna go with Air Force in this one, guys. All right, next one, guys. On my 2 point game, this is the game I've mentioned previously. This is a basically a toss-up game if you look here. 54-46 as far as who's picking who. I'm gonna go with Iowa as well. It's kind of for the same reason. Michigan just hasn't shown enough this year for me to pick them in this game. I think it's definitely possible. After last week, saw their offense start to come together a little bit. Maybe they do turn that corner, and this is a huge game for Jim Harbaugh, by the way. I mean, if they lose to Iowa, then they drop down to 3-2. They've still got to play some really tough games. They got to play Michigan State, Ohio State, Penn State. Definitely not an easy schedule looming for the Wolverines. So this is a really big game. It's year 5 for Harbaugh, so this is as big of a must-win game as he's ever going to have, or as he's probably had to this point, just because how bad they have looked. This was supposed to be the year, as I mentioned before. But in my opinion, I think this game is more about Iowa. Iowa's looked so efficient this year. Obviously went on the road and beat Iowa State in a rivalry game. Yeah, and just some of their other games too. Really took care of business last week against Middle Tennessee State. It was a 48-3 game. Took care of Rutgers. Took care of Miami of Ohio. And I think they're very similar, as I mentioned before, to Wisconsin. Really stout defense. Not really a creative offense, but it works. I mean, they put up 38-30, 18 against a good Iowa State team, and then 48 last week. So I really think the Hawkeyes are the more efficient team here. I wouldn't blame you for picking Michigan just because they will have so much motivation to win. Like I said, a must-win game. But I'm gonna go with the Hawkeyes. All right, guys, and with my 3 point pick, I'm going with Auburn to go on the road and beat Florida in Gainesville. I think Auburn has just proven this year that they can win the big game. Obviously beating Oregon to start the year in a game that they really didn't look good in. If Auburn continued to win games like they beat Oregon, maybe I would pick Florida in this game. But they've improved each week. Really played well against A&M, and it really came together last week against Mississippi State. They put up 56. Bo Nix played really well. They're starting to get the run game going. And then Florida, I mean, Florida's 5-0 too, but they have had a little bit easier of a road. Played some big name schools like Miami, Kentucky, Tennessee, but Miami's obviously not the Miami of the past, and Tennessee is definitely not the Tennessee of the past. Tennessee is not a good football team, and they handled them easily. So you have to give them credit. The only thing that Florida can do is play the teams on their schedule, and they've done that to a really high level this year. They're 5-0. I just think Gus Malzahn is going to pull some plays out of his hat. He's a really creative play caller. I like the Tigers in this game, guys. Game day is going to be in Florida, so I think that might give Florida a little bit of an advantage. It's a 3:30 game on CBS. It's going to be a lot of eyes on this game for sure. And there's a reason I have this as my 3 point game. 'Cause there are some games down here that are a little more easier to defend and pick, but I'm very confident in Auburn, and I'm a big believer in Bo Nix. He's a lot like Jake Fromm was in his freshman year at Georgia. Not really gonna be the focal point of the offense, but he's gonna make plays when he needs to, and he's gonna be a good game manager. And but Bo Nix is really taking that next step as he showed last week. Like I said, I'm a big believer in Auburn, and I like them to go on the road and win this game. All right, guys, my 4-point pick, I'm going with Miami to beat Virginia Tech at home. I mentioned this in my last video, but Virginia Tech just got blown out last week. A really embarrassing loss. Just got blown out by Duke, 45-10. It started off the year pretty rough with a loss at Boston College, and Boston College is not a bad team, but obviously whenever you let Kansas come in and beat you as bad as Boston College did, it definitely damages your credibility a little bit. That was a bad loss for Virginia Tech. And then, their two wins, yeah, they scooped by Old Dominion, but it was 31-17. And then they were on upset alert against Furman, and they ended up winning 24-17. But there is not one thing that Virginia Tech has proven this year to, indicate that they're going to go on the road and beat Miami. And I'm not saying Miami's great, because they're not, but, Miami's at least competed with, some good teams. Competed with Florida at the beginning of the year. And like I said, Florida's not an elite team, but they're a really good team. And that was the week 0 game. All eyes were on that game. They definitely had some glaring mishaps in that game. Offensive line play was not good, but Jaron Williams, the quarterback, has really been efficient this year. His completion percentage is 72.6. Hasn't thrown a pick yet this year. QB rating at 166. Been an underrated, good quarterback in college football. And I think you saw that at times against Florida. Like I said, his O-line play was not good in that game. So it was kind of hard to tell. But Jaron Williams is going to be a special player, guys. And I think Miami, this is a big game for them just because, yeah, they've started to play better the last 2 weeks, but it was against, Bethune-Cookman and Central Michigan. And they barely beat Central Michigan. It was 17-12. So I think this is a big game for that fan base to kind of be sold that, okay, this Miami team can start to compete and get back to, the traditional Miami dominance. So I'm gonna go with the Hurricanes in this one with my 4-point pick. Moving on, guys. I'm picking Oregon at home against Cal in my 5-point game. Cal. I think this would have been a much closer game had Cal not lost Chase Garbers. But Chase Garbers goes down last Friday night, and the offense just looks stuck. And that let Arizona State back in the game. Arizona State pulls off the upset in Berkeley, but I would say, this game is as much about Oregon as it is about Cal losing Chase Garbers. I mean, obviously the main guy in Oregon that everybody talks about is Justin Herbert, big draft prospect, big arm type of quarterback. But it's actually been their defense, guys. Their defense has allowed a combined 12 points in their last 3 games. They blew out Nevada 77-6, blew out Montana 35-3, and they held Stanford to 6 points. The offense has looked a little less efficient these last 2 weeks. But, it's not like Herbert's been playing bad. I mean, they only scored 21 against Stanford, but he was still 19-24 for 259 and 3 touchdowns. He was sacked 4 times, which definitely didn't help. But, I like Oregon's defense in this one. I think it's going to be, 28-17, maybe a little. I don't even know if Cal's going to score 17 points. Maybe a 28-10, 20-13 type of game. I mean, the over-under on this game is 46, but I think it's probably right just considering all the factors going into this game. Oregon's got a great defense, and Cal without really a proven quarterback. So I'm going to go with the Ducks in this game, probably by, a 14-17 point margin. All right, guys, with my next pick, I'm going with Oklahoma State. I really like them on the road against Texas Tech. It's really tough to evaluate Texas Tech. They've lost Alan Bowman, who's a really promising quarterback. He's only a sophomore. They lost him last year pretty early, and he's shown a lot of signs when he's healthy. But without Bowman, I see no way that Texas Tech is going to pull off this upset. They didn't look too competitive against Oklahoma last week. I think downfall on Tech has always been their defense. Besides the Oklahoma game, actually hasn't been bad. They held Arizona on the road to 28. Like I said, this game is more about Oklahoma State, guys. I mentioned them a lot just because I've seen them play in person. Guys, Chuba Hubbard is the real deal. He had almost 300 yards on the ground against Kansas State, who's traditionally one of the better, more disciplined defenses in the Big 12, and they just couldn't stop Chuba. Hubbard was running all over the field. Not to mention they got Tylan Wallace. I mentioned all this in my last video, but it's all relevant. I think those guys are going to continue to dominate. I just don't see how Tech competes with guys like Chuba Hubbard, Tylan Wallace, and Spencer Sanders. I think he's more than capable of winning a game on his own. But he's got so many weapons around him, guys. I'm going with the Cowboys big in this game. All right, my next pick, guys. I'm going with Washington to go on the road and beat Stanford. Definitely not a traditional Stanford team, guys. Really starting back from week 1. They've never been an offensive onslaught, guys. Didn't look good against USC. Got blown out. Got blown out at UCF. Really didn't keep the game that competitive against Oregon, and then pulled off a by a skin of their teeth win against Oregon State. So this is definitely not the Stanford team we're used to seeing. Um, you know, Kind of brings up a bigger question of does the pro style still work? I mean, definitely Wisconsin and Iowa would say yes, but it's just hard in a day and age in college football where teams are getting more creative. It's like LSU have even taken the jump. LSU is one of the most traditionally old school offenses in college football, and they hired Joe Brady, and now they look like 2014 Oregon when they had Marcus Mariota. I mean, spreading the ball out, really airing it out. Still have a good run game, but really becoming more creative. And I think that's where Stanford lacks in imagination. And I think Washington is a very good team, guys. They really looked good against USC last week. I mentioned Ahmed, the running back, had 153 and a touchdown. Jacob Eason is an extreme talent. I see no reason Washington's going to go and lose this game. Pac-12 after dark game, though, so that's maybe the only concern, because I don't know what it is. It's probably just because it's late, but those games tend to get wild. So, but I don't see that being the case this week. I like the Huskies going and winning this game handily. All right, so my 8-point pick, I'm going with the Texas Longhorns to go on the road and beat West Virginia. I think this Texas team is legit, guys. I think Sam Ehlinger is so efficient, just controls the game so well, and he's really starting to improve his deep ball a little bit. He's got so many weapons around him. Devin Duvernay, the freshman Jake Smith, the running game starting to figure out a little bit. But I think maybe why I'd pick Texas so confidently in this game is because this isn't the West Virginia team that we've seen in the past, especially last year. Last year they had Will Grier at quarterback. They had a really good run game, and they had David Sills and Gary Jennings outside. That's not the same team this year. They have a whole new coaching staff, complete overhaul really of the program, and they are 3-1. But barely scraped by with a win against James Madison. Got blown out on the road by Missouri, who Missouri is one of the more underrated teams in college football, I would say. I'm sure we'll get to that at a later date. Took care of NC State, but I think NC State has proven that they're not what they've been either. And then barely going on the road and beating Kansas. Maybe the only thing that does help West Virginia is they're coming off a bye. I think what negates that is so is Texas. So I think they're both going to be more well-rested than they would be if they hadn't had a bye. I think the Longhorns just win out here. They're an 11-point favorite. I like it to be about that margin, maybe a 10, 14, 17-point game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I don't think West Virginia is just atrocious. But I do like the Longhorns this week, guys. With my 9-point pick, I'm going with Ohio State to take care of business at home against Michigan State. I think Michigan State's, really starting to, recover from some down years in the past. 4-1 to start off the year. Handled Northwestern easily. Beat Indiana last week, and the offense looked really good in that one. The offense has looked better this year than maybe in years past. The thing is, I just don't see anybody competing with Ohio State right now. I'm looking at their schedule right now, and Michigan State's probably one of the only teams that can maybe keep it close that I see. I mean, Northwestern can't. Definitely Wisconsin can. So it's probably going to be Wisconsin and Penn State, who I think right now have shown that they can maybe keep that game close, as well as Michigan State. But I think at the Horseshoe, a night game, I think Ohio State's going to be ready to play, and they've proven, they've shown no reason why they're not going to take care of business. I mean, Justin Fields definitely looks the part. Defense looks good. I think that maybe that was the biggest question coming into last week is, they've looked so good, but they haven't really played anybody. The Buckeyes proved against Nebraska that, it wasn't that they were playing a weak schedule as to why they were dominating. They're that good. I think Michigan State's definitely turned a corner, really improved this year, 4-1. I think it's 4-2 after this week, guys. I like the Buckeyes. Not huge, but probably by 2-3 touchdowns. And then this last game, guys, there's really no way that I see Tennessee pulling off the upset in this one. I think you could defend in some of these other games that there's a chance, but in this Tennessee game, there's none. I don't think it's going to be a blowout, but I just don't think Tennessee has proven that they can execute at a high enough level to beat a team like Georgia. Georgia didn't blow out Vanderbilt. It's 30-6. I think it's somewhere around there. They're not going to have to use everything they got in this game. I like Georgia, by about 24 or so. But the reason I put this game with 10 confidence, I just see no possible way that Tennessee is going to be able to pull off the upset in this game. And then for this Ohio State Michigan State game, I'm putting it at 38-26. I think it'll be 38-19 or so late in the fourth quarter. Michigan State might throw on a touchdown. to make it closer. But I think this score won't be as close as it seems. I think Ohio State comes out hot early, establishes the run game with J.K. Dobbins. I think Justin Fields will make some good plays. I think it'll be, a 3 touchdown margin maybe at halftime, and then Michigan State starts to narrow it down a little bit. But I don't see any danger for the Buckeyes this week. I think they take care of business at home. All right, guys, that wraps it up for Week 6 College Pick'em. Like I said, I will leave the link to join my ESPN College Pick'em group. It's called Deeper Dive CFB. I'll leave the link to join that in the description of this video. I really appreciate it if y'all did join. I've had a few people contact me, about using my last video as a resource to make their picks. But I would like to grow this group so we can start to compare those picks with each other on a week by week basis. Thank you again for watching, guys. Please like, subscribe, share with a friend. Turn on your post notifications and comment. Like I've said, my DMs are always open. The comment section's always open. Ask any questions about college football. I appreciate any advice you have, as to how I can make these videos better. Maybe some new content I can put in there. I'm open ears, guys. So thank you again for watching, and we'll see you next time.